I want you to picture a really specific moment in time.
Okay.
It's late summer, 2006, a Tuesday afternoon in New York City.
Right.
It's hot. You know, the air is just thick with humidity and exhaust fumes, and the noise is relentless. You've got sirens honking, that low-level roar of Manhattan.
The quintessential New York gridlock experience.
Exactly. And you're standing on the corner of 10th Street and Broadway, waiting for the light to change. And standing right next to you, shoulder-brushing distance, is a man in a sharp, cream-colored sport jacket.
Mm-hmm.
He steps off the curb, arm raised, trying to hail a cab. And the thing is, nobody cares.
Wow.
The cab drivers are just speeding past him. The people on the sidewalk are swarming around him, dodging him like he's just another obstacle on the way to the subway.
Which, in New York is exactly what he is.
Right. But the person telling this story is Mark Spitz. He's a music journalist, a biographer, and in this specific moment, he is having a complete internal meltdown.
I can imagine.
He's standing there sweating, trying to look cool, but inside his brain is screaming. Because the man in the cream jacket isn't just an older gentleman trying to get uptown, it's David Bowie.
That is it's such a jarring image. You have this figure who, for 40 years, was defined by being completely other.
Yeah.
The alien, the androgyne, the starman, and he's engaged in the most mundane human activity possible.
And Spitz describes this urge he had to just grab the strangers walking by and shake them. He wanted to yell, do you not see who this is?
Right.
That is the man who fell to earth. That is the thin white duke. That is the guy who wrote Heroes.
Yeah.
But to everyone else, he was just a guy who couldn't get a taxi.
I really love that you're starting here, because Spitz wrote this massive biography simply titled Bowie, and he opens with that anecdote for a very specific reason.
Mm-hmm.
We spend so much time analyzing the myth, the makeup, the costumes, the personas, that we tend to forget there was a physical human being underneath it all.
A man who had to figure out how to hail a cab.
And more importantly, a man who had to figure out how to become David Bowie in the first place.
Which brings us to our mission for this deep dive. We are stripping away the glitter today.
Yes, we are.
We aren't doing a greatest hits rundown where we just play the choruses and say, wow, what a song.
No, we're looking at the construction project.
Exactly. How did a polite, incredibly shy, somewhat repressed suburban boy named David Jones transform himself into this cultural avatar?
It's a fascinating question, because the popular narrative, the one you see in all the retrospective documentaries, is that he was a genius who just appeared fully formed.
Like he dropped out of the sky.
Right. He released Space Oddity in 1969 and the world instantly changed.
Mm-hmm.
But Spitz's book and the research we've pulled together for this stack, it tells a much grittier, much more painful story.
It's a story of failure, really, isn't it?
Relentless failure.
Yeah.
Humiliating failure. It's a story of family trauma, of mental illness, of, really bad bands, and sheer bloody-minded determination.
Yeah.
This wasn't destiny. This was an apprenticeship.
So let's get into the sources. As we mentioned, we're leaning heavily on Spitz's biography, which is fantastic because he didn't just read the old press clippings.
He did the legwork.
He really did. He went out and interviewed the people who knew David before he was famous. The disgruntled early managers, the ex-girlfriends, the bandmates who got left behind.
It paints this vivid, smoky picture of post-war Britain that feels incredibly real.
And to understand that picture, to really get it, we can't start in the swinging 60s. We have to go back to the gray aftermath of World War II.
Right. We have to go to Brixton, 1947.
40 Stansfield Road.
That's the one. And if you visit that street today, or at least when Spitz visited during his research, there was this incredibly cheeky detail.
Oh, the window thing.
Yes. The neighbor in the house next door had placed an inflatable alien in the window.
Just a little nod to the history of the street.
A very self-aware wink. But in 1947, there were no aliens in Brixton.
Just bomb damage.
Bomb damage, coal smoke, rationing. The house itself is a 3-story pale brick building. And inside, you have this genetic collision happening.
Right.
To understand David Bowie, you have to understand that he is the product of two very different, very damaged families.
Spitz calls it a genetic cocktail. It's almost volatile when you look at it. Let's start with the mother's side, the Burns family.
Peggy Burns. She was a force of nature.
Yeah.
Spitz describes her as having this English beauty, pale skin, dark, humorous eyes. But she was intense.
Very intense.
She was from a working class Irish Catholic background, very spirited, very unconventional for her time.
But there was a shadow hanging over the Burns family, a really dark one.
A massive shadow. There was a profound, undeniable streak of mental illness running through the Burns women.
Right.
Peggy's sisters, Victoria and Vivienne, both suffered from severe schizophrenia and other psychiatric disorders.
And you really have to remember the context here.
Yeah.
This is the 1940s. Mental health care back then often meant lobotomies or being locked away in these terrifying Victorian-era asylums.
When the context of the war must have exacerbated that fragility hugely.
Oh, without a doubt.
Imagine the Blitz, the constant threat of death falling from the sky every single night, the sirens. It fractured already fragile psyches.
Spitz actually refers to it as the Burns family curse.
He does. Peggy was the oldest, so she was the most functional of the sisters, but she was often described as borderline.
Right.
She was loud, theatrical, and prone to these wild, unpredictable mood swings.
And she carried a lot of baggage from before she even met David's father. She had a past that was quite scandalous for the time.
A tragic past, really. In 1937, she was working as a nanny at a hotel, and she fell deeply in love with a French-Jewish man named Wolf Rosenberg.
Everyone called him Jack, right?
Yes, Jack. She thought he was the love of her life. She gets pregnant, and she has a son, Terry.
We need to put a pin in Terry. He is going to be absolutely crucial to this story.
Vital. But here's the trauma for Peggy. Jack Rosenberg leaves.
It just takes off.
The war is looming. He goes back to his family or joins the resistances. Accounts vary on that, but he effectively abandons Peggy and the baby.
Wow.
So she's a single mother in 1940s London, working in a munitions factory, making bombs, raising a child alone while the city's being destroyed around her.
That creates a level of hardness that's difficult for us to even imagine today. That pure survival instinct.
And resentment. She never really got over Jack. He was the one that got away. So she carried this heartbreak and this jagged edge into her marriage with David's father.
So let's talk about the father, Haywood Stanton Jones. Though he went by John.
A complete opposite energy to Peggy.
Totally.
John was from Yorkshire. Stolid, polite, repressed. If Peggy was fire and chaos, John was ice and order.
Spitz uses this phrase, cold kindness, to describe the atmosphere he generated.
Cold kindness. It's such an evocative phrase.
It sounds suffocating.
Well, it was a safety mechanism. Because John Jones had been burned by ambition, too. See, this is a part of the story people often miss.
Right.
John Jones had dreams once. In the 1930s, he inherited a trust fund, about £3,000.
Which was a small fortune back then. You could buy a row of houses with that kind of money.
He didn't buy houses. He blew almost all of it trying to launch a showbiz career for his first wife, Hilda Sullivan.
Oh, wow.
He actually bought a nightclub.
I love this detail. Please tell me the name of the club again.
The Boopadoop Club.
The Boopadoop. You literally cannot make that up.
I know, it sounds ridiculous now, but for him, it was a tragedy. The club failed miserably. The marriage failed. He lost all the money.
So he went from a trust fund to nothing.
He ended up sweeping floors and working as a porter in a hotel. So by the time he meets Peggy and they have David, John Jones has learned a very hard, very bitter lesson.
That dreaming is dangerous.
Exactly. Show business will ruin you. Stick to the safe path.
So he ends up working for Dr. Barnardo's, the famous children's charity.
Right. A safe, respectable, bureaucratic job. He wanted stability above all else.
Right.
So David grows up in this house at 40 Stansfield Road, where the atmosphere is thick with unsaid things.
Yeah.
You have the mother who is volatile, traumatized, and theatrical. You have the father who is kind but emotionally walled off, terrified of risk.
And into this mix comes David Robert Jones. And the sources suggest he was different, even as a baby.
There's the story of the midwife. It's almost mythological at this point.
Oh, right.
She looks at the newborn baby in the crib and tells Peggy, this child has been on this earth before.
Which is exactly the kind of thing you'd expect in the first chapter of a rock star biography, but it's still spooky.
It fits the legend perfectly. But there are concrete examples of his behavior, too. Spitz recounts a story where David is about 3 years old.
Okay.
Peggy finds him in the bathroom. He had found her makeup bag. Lipsticks, eyeliners, powders.
And he's painted himself.
He'd covered his entire face. He looked like a clown or a kabuki actor.
And when she yells at him, because in 1950, that's not what little boys do.
He just looks at her completely calm and says, you do it, mommy.
That is such a perceptive thing for a toddler to say.
Isn't it?
He's calling out the performative nature of adulthood. Like you put on a mask to face the world, Why can't I?
Exactly. He was already observing that adults construct their identities. He saw that his mother put on a face to go out.
Right.
But you're right. In a working-class British home in the early 50s, a boy in makeup was a sign of otherness. It was alarming to his parents.
So we have the volatile genetics, the repressed environment, the cold kindness. But David needed a spark.
He did.
He needed someone to show him the world outside that gray house. And that person wasn't his parents.
No, it was his half-brother, Terry.
Jack Rosenberg's son.
Terry Burns. He was 10 years older than David. And in that house of cold kindness, Terry was the heat. He was handsome, he was moody, he was physical. He was the only one who hugged David.
That physical affection seems really important here.
It's everything. In a household where emotions were either repressed or exploding in anger, Terry provided warmth.
Yeah.
David worshipped him. Terry was the surrogate father, really, because John was so distant and older. But more than that, Terry was the portal to cool.
How so? Like, what did that look like?
Well, while the parents were listening to light orchestral music and eating tin food, Terry was going into London.
Okay.
He was engaging with the counterculture before it even had a name. He was a bit of a beatnik.
What specifically was he exposing David to?
Everything that was dangerous and interesting. He was reading Jack Kerouac and William Burroughs, the beat writers.
Right.
He was listening to modern jazz, Coltrane, Mingus, the really abstract stuff. And he took a young David, we're talking a 10 or 11-year-old kid, to jazz clubs in Soho.
Imagine that. You're a kid from the boring suburbs, and your cool big brother walks you into a smoke-filled basement where people are wearing sunglasses inside, playing saxophone, and talking about Buddhism.
It blew David's mind. It rewired his brain completely.
I bet.
Terry taught him that there was a world beyond the lace curtains of Bromley. He gave him the intellectual foundation that Bowie would use for the rest of his career.
The jazz, the literature.
The love of jazz, the interest in outsider literature, the fascination with the surreal, that all comes directly from Terry. Terry was the tastemaker.
But this relationship is also the source of David's greatest fear. Because the Burns family curse didn't skip Terry.
No, it hit him hard. And the catalyst for Terry's decline was his military service.
Right.
Terry did his national service in the RAF. He was sent to North Africa, Aden, Yemen.
That was a messy conflict.
It was a violent, chaotic, colonial breakdown. We don't know exactly what he saw or experienced, but the sources imply it was deeply traumatic.
Yeah.
He came back wrong.
Broken.
The schizophrenia began to take hold. He became erratic. He started hearing voices. He would go from being the cool, loving brother to someone completely unreachable. And then there was the incident at Chislehurst Caves.
This story gives me the creeps every time I read it. It feels like something out of a Gothic novel.
It really does. Chislehurst Caves are these ancient man-made tunnels under London, miles of them.
It's totally dark.
Terry disappeared down there. When they finally found him, he was ranting. He said he had seen a great light.
Wow.
He saw a vision of Christ looking down at him, and he said he was surrounded by a ring of fire.
A ring of fire.
He'd completely detached from reality, and shortly after that, the family had no choice. He was institutionalized at Cane Hill Asylum.
So David is a teenager, and he is watching his hero, the person who taught him everything about art, music, and coolness, dissolve into madness.
And he knows it's in his blood. That's the key.
Right.
David didn't just feel sad for Terry. He was terrified for himself. He spent his entire early adulthood waiting for it to happen to him.
Thinking he's next.
He looked at Terry and thought, is that my future? Is that what happens when you open your mind too much?
Spitz brings up a really interesting analysis of a song David loved as a coping mechanism during this time. Inchworm.
Yes. From the Danny Kaye movie Hans Christian Andersen. Inchworm, inchworm, measuring the marigolds.
It's a nursery rhyme, basically. Why did that resonate with a guy terrified of genetic madness?
Because it's about math. 2 and 2 are 4. 4 and 4 are 8.
Oh, I see.
It's about structure. It's about predictability. When your brother is seeing rings of fire and visions of Christ, a song about simple addition is incredibly soothing.
Because it makes sense.
Exactly. It represents order in a chaotic universe.
Yeah.
Spitz argues that David used art and music the same way he used that song.
Art is a containment field.
Precisely.
Yeah.
If he could write a song about the scary things, he could control them, he could sing away the pain.
Right.
It wasn't just about wanting to be famous, it was about trying to stay sane. If he stopped creating, maybe the voices would start.
That really reframes his ambition. It's not just ego, it's survival.
It's absolutely survival. He was building a fortress out of songs.
So let's move forward chronologically. The family leaves Brixton and moves to the suburbs,
Wow.
Bromley. And if Brixton was poor but lively, Bromley sounds like purgatory.
It was the quintessential 1950s suburb. It was a fishbowl.
Yep.
Everyone watching everyone, twitching curtains. The pressure to be normal and respectable was suffocating. It was a place where standing out was the absolute worst thing you could do.
And ironically, this is exactly where David starts to physically transform into something that definitely stood out. We have to talk about the eye.
The Bowie eye, one of the most famous physical traits in rock history.
The legend, and I remember hearing this on the playground when I was younger, is that he has two different colored eyes, or that it's some cosmic mutation, or that he got stabbed in a knife fight.
Right? The myths are wild.
But the reality is, it was a schoolyard scrap.
It was a fight over a girl. Pure teenage drama.
Carol Goldsmith.
Right. David was friends with a guy named George Underwood. They were best mates. They both fancied Carol.
As teenagers do.
And David, being a bit manipulative, even then, tried to pull a fast one.
What did he do?
He told George, "Oh, I spoke to Carol. She's not interested in you at all. She's actually waiting for me."
Machiavellian.
Very. But George found out David was lying. He got mad. He confronted David in the playground and punched him in the face.
Just a normal punch.
Well, it was unlucky. George was wearing a ring, or maybe it was just a fingernail. Accounts differ. But something caught David's left eye.
Ouch.
It scratched the eyeball and paralyzed the sphincter muscle of the iris.
That sounds incredibly painful.
It required multiple surgeries. They almost lost the eye entirely.
Really?
Yes. But the result was that the pupil became permanently dilated. It's blown wide open, unable to contract in response to light.
That's why it looks dark.
Exactly. His eyes are actually the same color. They're both blue. But the left one looks black because the pupil never closes.
But here is the part that blows my mind about this story.
Mm-hmm.
George Underwood, the guy who blinded him, remained his best friend.
Not only his best friend, he went on to design the album covers for Hunky Dory and Ziggy Stardust.
That is a special kind of friendship.
Right.
Like, sorry I paralyzed your eye, mate. It's cool. Can you draw an alien for me?
It speaks to David's pragmatism. He realized, perhaps even then, that the injury made him look interesting.
It did.
It gave him the alien look. Before that, he was just a handsome, blonde, suburban kid. Now, he had this unsettling asymmetrical gaze.
Right.
Camille Paglia, the social critic, has this brilliant take in the book. She calls it the blighted eye.
What does she mean by that?
She says it represents dual vision. He sees the physical suburban world with his good eye, the right eye.
Okay.
And he sees the spiritual, dark, artistic world with the damaged eye, the left eye. It's the mark of the shaman, the artist who is half in this world, half in the other.
It's just so ironic that he got his shaman mark because he was lying to his friend about a date.
That is Bowie in a nutshell, isn't it? The profound mixed entirely with the trivial. The myth mixed with the mundane.
So he's got the eye, he's got the jazz influence, and now he starts to discover rock and roll, but not the Beatles.
No. The Beatles were too nice. They were too pop in the beginning.
Who was it then?
The moment for David was Little Richard. He heard Tutti Frutti, and he said it was like God talking.
Wow.
It was like someone threw a bucket of neon paint into his gray bedroom.
The energy, the screaming.
And the androgyny. That's the key here. Little Richard wasn't a macho guy. He was wearing makeup, he had the pompadour, he was screaming, he was wild.
It wasn't polite.
Not at all. That was the template. David saw that and thought, that is what I want to do.
And here is where the apprentice years really begin. David didn't know what he wanted to be yet. He actually wanted to be a saxophone player first.
He took lessons from a serious pro, too.
Ronnie Ross, right?
Ronnie Ross, a top-tier jazz baritone sax player. This wasn't just hobby stuff.
Right.
David was incredibly ambitious. He didn't just want to play in the school band. He wanted to be the best. He dragged his plastic saxophone around everywhere.
And he had a teacher at school who encouraged this eccentricity, Owen Frampton.
The father of Peter Frampton.
Wait, Frampton. Like, show me the way Peter Frampton.
The very same.
Yep.
Peter and David went to the same school. They used to jam on the stairs during lunch.
That's amazing.
Owen Frampton was the art teacher, and he ran the art block like a sanctuary for the weird kids.
Every school needs one of those.
They do. He let them play records, talk about art, grow their hair out a bit. He encouraged David's eccentricity while the rest of the school was trying to turn him into a clerk.
So David leaves school, he's got the ambition, he's got the weird eye, and this brings us to the part of the story that I think is the most important for you as the listener, because it completely destroys the genius myth, the decade of failure.
It really was a full decade. From roughly 1962 to 1969, and honestly, really until 1972, David Bowie flopped constantly.
We love the overnight success stories in pop culture, but let's look at the resume here. It's painful.
It's a graveyard of bad bands. First, you have the Conrads.
What was their vibe?
Very safe, very suburban. They played weddings, church fetes, youth clubs. They wore matching suits and smiled.
Oh.
David hated it. He realized immediately, I'm not here to play background music while people eat cake. He wanted to be the center of attention, so he quit.
Makes sense.
Next, the King Bees. They were R&B wannabes, Rolling Stones copycats. They released a single called Liza Jane.
And how did that go?
Stone cold flop. Nobody bought it.
Ouch.
But this era highlights David's sheer gall. He wrote a letter to a millionaire named John Bloom.
Who was John Bloom?
Bloom was an entrepreneur who made his money selling washing machines door to door.
Okay.
David writes to him and says, essentially, you sell washing machines, I sell music, I'm going to be huge, give me money.
What chutzpah of a 17-year-old kid.
Right. Bloom didn't give him the money, he probably laughed. But it shows that David wasn't waiting to be discovered, he was hunting. He was desperate to make it happen.
So the King Bees fail. Who's next on the list?
The Manish Boys. This is his folk and Dylan phase mixed with R&B. And this is where we get the funniest publicity stunt of his early career.
The Long Hair Society.
Yes. The band wasn't getting any press for their music because, frankly, the music wasn't that original.
Right.
So David and his manager cooked up a fake controversy. They went to the newspapers and claimed that the BBC wouldn't let them play because their hair was too long.
Was it actually long?
By modern standards, no. It was barely over their collars. It looked totally tame.
So it was a total fabrication.
Completely. But they founded the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Long-Haired Men.
That's brilliant.
David went on TV on the BBC Tonight Show and gave this incredibly deadpan interview. He said, "We just want to be free to wear our hair how we like. We don't want to be persecuted."
It's pure manipulation of the media.
It was style over substance. He learned that controversy gets you ink. If you can't be good, be news.
Right.
But the music still wasn't hitting. The single flopped again.
Then we get the lower third. And this brings us to the mod scene. We need to define mod for people because it's not just a fashion style. It was a religion in 60s London.
Absolutely. Mod stands for modernist. It was a working class movement. These were kids who worked in factories or boring offices, but every single penny they earned went into appearance.
Sharp Italian suits.
Sharp suits, mohair, American R&B records, Vespas and Lambrettas.
It was about living better than your station, wasn't it? There's that famous quote, clean living under difficult circumstances.
Right. It was hyper fastidious. If your trousers had the wrong crease or your tie was a half-inch too wide, you were out. You were a ticket.
Wow.
And David dove into this. He was the ultimate mod. He loved the dressing up part of it.
And in this scene, he meets his great rival, Mark Bolan.
Then known as Mark Feld. This is one of the great, before they were famous stories.
How did they meet?
They met because they had the same manager for a brief period, and the manager needed his office painted.
So you have David Bowie and Mark Bolan whitewashing a wall.
Just two broke kids in paint-spattered clothes. But they were sizing each other up.
I can picture that.
Bolan was a mod icon already. He was a face. Someone who set the trends in Stamford Hill.
Right.
David looked up to him, but he also kind of wanted to destroy him.
It was a competitive friendship.
Fiercely competitive. Bolan was the older brother figure for a while, replacing Terry in a way. He was stylish, confident, a bit mystical.
And David was still figuring out.
David was still awkward. They used to walk down Carnaby Street looking at clothes they couldn't afford, both convinced they were going to be the King of England.
Yeah.
They both knew they were destined for something, but only one could be first.
But while he's playing the mod, he's living a double life.
He had to work. The parents, if you remember John Jones's fear of failure, they were pressuring him.
Get a real job.
When are you going to get a real job, David? So he worked as a junior visualizer at an ad agency. J. Walter Thompson.
David Bowie, ad man.
Designing storyboards for Kit Kat commercial and ice cream bars.
He must have hated that.
He hated it. It was soul-crushing. But, and this is important, it also taught him about marketing.
Oh, that makes sense.
It taught him about image. It taught him that you can sell a product by changing the packaging. And eventually he realized he was the product.
And speaking of packaging, he finally changes the name around this time, because David Jones was becoming a problem.
A big problem. Because across the Atlantic, the Monkees were blowing up.
Right.
And their lead singer, the cute one, the heartthrob, was Davy Jones.
David couldn't compete with an American TV star.
He needed a name that cut through. He considered Tom Jones for a second, but that was obviously taken, so he landed on Bowie.
Why Bowie?
After Jim Bowie, the American frontiersman, the Alamo hero, and specifically, the Bowie knife.
What was the symbolism there for him?
He said he wanted a name that cut both ways. It's aggressive, it's sharp, it's American.
It wasn't a polite English surname like Jones or Smith?
No, it was a declaration of intent. He was severing ties with his past self. He was arming himself.
Around this time, he gets a new manager, Ken Pitt. And this is a really weird pairing in the rock history books.
It's very odd couple. Ken Pitt was older, gay, very cultured. He lived in a beautiful flat in Manchester Street with antiques and first editions of books. He wasn't a rock and roll sleazebag. He wasn't a shark.
What did he see in David?
He didn't see a rock star. He saw an all-around entertainer. He wanted David to be the next Tommy Steele or Anthony Newley.
Someone who could do it all.
Someone who could sing, dance, act, do cabaret.
This is often framed as a massive mistake in the Bowie history, that Pitt tried to soften him.
It's controversial, for sure. Pitt tried to civilize him. He made him read Oscar Wilde.
Okay.
Taught him how to speak properly, smoothing out the Cockney edges. He pushed him toward this light entertainment style. And yes, musically it led to some weird stuff.
Like the Laughing Gnome.
Oh God, the Laughing Gnome. We have to explain this to the listeners.
We really do. It's so strange.
It's a novelty song. It's David singing with a sped-up chipmunk voice that is supposed to be a gnome.
It literally goes, ha ha ha, he, I'm the Laughing Gnome and you can't catch me.
It's objectively terrible.
It's humiliating.
It is. But Pitt also gave him discipline. He taught him professionalism.
What you needed.
And most importantly, Pitt went to New York on a business trip and brought back a souvenir that changed everything.
An acetate record.
An unreleased copy of the Velvet Underground and Nico, the famous Banana album produced by Andy Warhol.
Why was this so pivotal? What did David hear in that record?
You have to understand the context of the time. In London, the scene was shifting to peace and love, hippies, flower power.
All you need is love.
Exactly. Everything was colorful and happy. Then David puts on this record and he hears Lou Reed singing, I'm Waiting for the Man.
Right.
It's a song about buying heroin in Harlem. It's droning, it's dark, it's cynical.
It was the complete opposite of entertaining.
Exactly. The Velvet Underground didn't care if you liked them. They were savagely indifferent.
Savagely indifferent.
David realized that cool wasn't about smiling and tap dancing like Anthony Newley. It was about standing in the corner with sunglasses on, not giving a damn.
It was the antidote to the Ken Pitt cabaret training.
It gave him permission to be dark.
So he has the ambition, he has the new dark edge from the Velvets.
Right.
But he still needs to learn how to control his body on stage. Enter Lindsay Kemp.
Lindsay Kemp. If Terry was the intellectual mentor, Kemp was the physical mentor.
Right.
He was a mime artist.
Mime gets a really bad rap today. We think of guys trapped in invisible boxes on street corners.
This wasn't that. This was avant-garde physical theater. Kemp was openly gay, incredibly flamboyant, Kemp personified. He lived his life as a performance. David took classes with him at the dance center and was completely mesmerized.
What did Kemp actually teach him?
He taught him to free his body. Before Kemp, David stood at a microphone and strummed a guitar like every other folk singer.
Very static.
After Kemp, David used his hands, his eyes, his posture. Kemp taught him lighting, costume, and the Casanova technique.
Which is what it's...
How to seduce an audience with a single look.
They actually did a show together, didn't they? Pierrot in Turquoise.
Yes! David played a character called Cloud. He wore full mime makeup, white face, painted eyes.
Oh, wow.
This is the birth of Ziggy Stardust's theatricality. He realized he didn't have to be David Jones singing a song. He could be a character. He could be a construct.
And through this artsy circle, he meets a girl, Hermione Farthingale.
The love of his early life. Hermione was an English rose, classically trained ballet dancer, middle class, very poised.
David fell hard.
He really did.
This was his hippie phase, right?
Totally. They formed a folk trio called Feathers. They lived together in a flat in London. It was all macrobiotic rice, burning incense, practicing yoga.
Sounds very late 60s.
Very. David thought he had found his partner. He thought, this is it. I'll be a folk singer with my beautiful girlfriend.
But it didn't last.
No.
Yeah.
David was complicated. He had a wandering eye, but also he was intensely ambitious. He wanted to be a star. She wanted to be an artist. Hermione eventually got a role in a movie, Song of Norway, and she left him.
Just like that.
She flew off to Norway to film, and the relationship ended.
And that breakup broke him.
It devastated him. But, and here's the crucial insight, it gave him the final ingredient he was missing: genuine pain.
Because before Hermione, he was writing about gnomes and rubber bands and spaceships in a very novelty way.
After Hermione, he wrote Letter to Hermione. He wrote Space Oddity.
Yeah.
Listen to Space Oddity again. It's not just about a rocket. It's about drifting away. Planet Earth is blue and there's nothing I can do.
That's the sound of a broken heart. That's pure isolation.
He needed the tragedy to find the depth.
He did. He transmuted that pain into art. And to help him package that depth, he found a new musical partner, Tony Visconti.
The Brooklyn producer.
Right.
Visconti was brash, American, and talented. He came to London and met David. They bonded instantly.
They were both outsiders.
They were both outsiders in the London scene. They bonded over Roman Polanski films and weird underground culture. Visconti became the musical anchor. In a way, he replaced Terry and Bolan as the steady hand. He helped David focus.
So let's look at where we are. It's 1969. David is 22 years old. If you look at his bank account or his chart history, he is a total failure.
A wash-up. He's been dropped by labels, his bands have split, his girlfriend left him, he's living in a flat in Beckenham, basically broke.
But if we look at the mission of this deep dive, the construction project, he is actually finished. He's ready.
He has all the pieces. Let's stack them up to see what he built.
Okay, let's do it.
He has the alien eye from the fight with George Underwood.
Yep.
He has the outsider mentality and the fear of madness from his brother Terry.
Right.
He has the mod style and the arrogant ambition from the Bolan rivalry.
The theatricality from Kemp.
The theatricality and the makeup skills from Lindsay Kemp's mime classes.
The darkness from the Velvets.
The darkness and the cool detachment from the Velvet Underground. And finally, he has the soul and the emotional depth from the heartbreak with Hermione.
It's incredible when you list it out like that. He spent 10 years trying on masks. R&B singer, folk singer, mime, ad man.
And he finally stitched them all together to create David Bowie.
It wasn't magic. It was work.
It was grinding through humiliation and failure until he found the combination that unlocked the lock.
He is standing on the precipice of Space Oddity. He is about to launch.
And the rest is history. But the lesson is that he built the Starman. He didn't just wake up that way.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a question to chew on.
Okay.
We've talked about all these failed versions of Bowie. The mod, the mime, the folk hippie. If you could hop in a time machine to a smoky London club in 1967, which one would you want to see?
Oh, man. That's tough.
I know, right?
I think I'd want to see the mime, just to see him in the makeup, doing the avant-garde stuff before it was famous. That feels like the rawest version of the alien he would become.
I think I'd go for the mod.
Really?
Yeah, just to see him and Bolan strutting down the street, broke, but acting like they own the world. That energy, that pure delusional belief in themselves, it must have been electric.
The energy of pure potential.
Exactly. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the construction of a legend. It's been a fascinating ride through the wreckage and the resurrection.
Always a pleasure. Keep measuring the marigolds.
See you next time.